Hello, Book Club, hosted by Heather Skinner. We are so excited for today's bonus interview. We are here with author Heidi Gray McGill, and we get to talk about her upcoming release in February. And Gemma always gets to ask the first question. She's so excited that she actually has two questions, I believe, for you today, Heidi. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, Heather, thank you so much for having me. And Jenna, I am super excited to hear your question.
Okay, so my first one is, since the background, my first question is, does she go on a heroic adventure?
That's right. Actually, would you like to hold up your book, because both of her questions are about the cover. So we've got Dial E for Endearment.
So this is Everly and Cam. And if you notice in my book, Gemma, there is a white cane, which means what?
She's blind.
She's blind, exactly. I also carry a white cane, and I am what is called legally blind. I'll tell you a little bit more about that later. But to answer your question, her adventure is really more of the heart. She's trying to find somebody who will love her for just who she is, not somebody who sees the white cane, but somebody who sees her heart. And so that's her adventure. Cam, on the other hand, he's the one that gets into trouble.
Uh-oh. Is that your next? That probably leads pretty good into your next question.
Are the two in the front cover married?
They are not. They are just really good friends. And this is a very clean book, and you would actually enjoy reading it. It is appropriate for all ages.
Yeah, she knows. I actually have read your novella, and I love it. I devoured it in 2 days.
Oh, awesome.
We homeschool, so during her homeschool breaks, she went and played, and I'm sitting there reading like, oh, this is so great. Oh, do you want to thank her? That was awesome. I love that.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Gemma. I'm glad you were here.
And I love that you asked her to bring the toilet paper tubes for something you wanted to show her. She brought them, and she's excited.
Yeah, so Gemma, let me just explain a little bit more. So Everly in this story is completely blind, meaning she cannot see anything. I have the same eye disease as the story character has. It's called retinitis pigmentosa. And it's where you start losing your peripheral vision, which is the vision that comes from the outside and brings it in. And I have 5% left. So I want you to do me a favor. Put those tubes up on your eyes like this. All right, hold them tight together. All right, now I want you to turn and look at your mom, and I want you to find her eyes. All right, now Gemma, don't move those. Your mom's gonna wave her hand underneath around her shoulder. Can you see her hand when she does that?
No.
You can't? Well, can you see it when she puts it out beside her ear?
No.
No, that's what I see, Gemma. When I'm looking at your eyes, I can't see your mouth or your chin. I can't see your shoulders. I can't see if you put your hand out to shake my hand. So I have to rely on other cues, other things around me. So for example, if you get a very unusual look on your face, I know I've missed something. So that is what I see. And that's about 5% of your vision right there, what you see. You can practice that. It's pretty interesting. You try walking across your floor doing that. You'll see how many things you step on that you didn't know were there.
And she's just gotten into Legos, so that could be dangerous.
Oh, that is so dangerous.
And Barbie, so that could be even more dangerous.
Yeah. Exactly.
Oh.
And those little things that have really like holes in it.
Oh, like all the blocks and bristle blocks. Yeah, she's gotten into a lot.
Oh, yeah.
That's a real thing.
Awesome.
Yeah. Thank you so much for telling us about that and that demonstration. I think that's so neat having Gemma do that. And then that's something everyone at home could do. It really is, even me just looking through, like you can tell you can't see the underneath. And
right. So walking forward is a challenge, and that's why the white cane is helpful to me. Even though I do have some vision remaining, that white cane allows me to make sure the floor in front of me is clear as I'm going past something, going towards something.
Well, that's some great information. I had never heard of that condition before too, so I really appreciate learning about that and what that entails and what you deal with your site on a daily basis. And going into talking about the book, I'm excited to ask you some more questions and talk more about this. So thank you again for answering Gemma's questions and showing her all about that.
All right.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gemma. Bye.
All right, I'm so excited. We have so many wonderful member questions that have come in, and then I have a ton for you as well. So I want to start off, if you want to hold up your book one more time and then just give like a brief, additional bio just about the book, the novella.
All right. This is Diary for Endearment, and it is a book number 4 in 26 books. Each book has a title according to a letter, and the entire concept is you are on the air. So every book is standalone, but they are linked, meaning that they are about a radio station. And so in my book, I've chosen to have Everly as the radio station host, who has her own program. And she has a program on Friday nights. And the radio station manager is her best friend. They have done everything together since college, and they went to the same college that I attended, Mount Vernon Nazarene College, or university now, and they earned their communications degree. And so here they are, and this is Cam. Cam is what the man that enters the story in a very fun and unique way. He has a dog named Max that I absolutely adore, who had not been, he was not even slated in the story when I wrote this, so that was kind of fun. The story deals with more than just a romance. This is a story that I wrote specifically because February is Low Vision Awareness Month. And so I wanted to shed light on blindness, low vision, and the fact that every person has value.
I love that. And that's something, until you told me, I had no idea that February was Low Vision Awareness Month. So you're already spreading that awareness, and I really appreciate learning about that. And I think that's really such a special message that you're sharing with people, and I really love that.
Thank you.
And seeing you just held up your cover, I think that's our first question I've got here. So member, and again, if I mispronounce member names, I apologize, because I'm usually reading your name online. So just let me know if I mispronounce your name, and I hope I don't. Liz Deshays wanted to know, did you pick the cover for your book?
Oh, that's a good question. Liz, we had one individual, Shatona Havig, and she created all the covers for us. I gave her the information that I needed, and she created this unbelievable cover that truly matched what I needed. It does show that we are in the Smoky Mountains, and this is Blowing Rock, which is where this book takes place. And I was very pleased with the characters that she chose. So they're all very similar in style.
Oh, great. What was your process with that? Were you back and forth with different notes and ideas?
Normally that is what happens. You might submit to a graphic artist the information that you need. Shatona and I exchanged, I think, 3 text messages, and that's what we came up with. She just grasped the concept very quickly, and I knew that this was what we needed to do.
That's fantastic. It's a beautiful cover. It really is.
I appreciate it.
It's eye-catching, and the colors are nice and like cozy, and I love it. It's gorgeous.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Let's see. We've got some questions about your writing style coming in as well. So Bonnie Jean Yapson-Weinman, she would like to know, are you a plotter or a pantser?
Oh, Bonnie Jean, I am a pantser. This book took less than 30 days from start to finish. When I got the idea in my head, I was one of the last authors to sign up to be a part of this multi-author process. And so there weren't very many letters available for me. And so I thought, what of the letter E, what in the world? And so I had to just Google words that start with the letter E that have to do with love. And Endearment was one of them. And it just took seconds for me to just have a story in my brain. And I wrote it probably 4 sittings. It just happened very, very quickly. So it is a novella. It does, it's about 25,000 words, maybe a little bit more, maybe about 27,000 words, 156 pages, I think. So it is a quick read, but it's packed full. Now, I have to add to that, Bonnie Jean. I have another series. It is historical fiction. Desire of My Heart is the first book, and it's the Discerning God's Best series. And both of my debut novel, Desire of My Heart, and the second book, With All My Heart, those are totally pantser. But I worked with a writing coach for book 3, which I'm still working on because it's so plotted out, I'm struggling. So I'm kind of abandoning ship what I learned with my coach, and I'm going back to the way that I do things because I feel like it's more me. So every author is truly different.
That's an interesting point too. I never really thought about that for pantsers. When you're writing a series, it gets to a point where you have so much information to keep track of. You almost do have to kind of plot more than you probably want to. So
Yes.
That's interesting.
Yes, I actually have a genealogy written out for my characters. And it's pretty interesting when you look at it and you think, wait, I can't, they're not even 14 yet. This can't happen. You know, you have to really think through the process of the year and consider what's happening in the world at that time. You can't just willy-nilly put your book in any point in time. I didn't want to, book 3 is after the Civil War. And so I had to really consider what was our country like during that time. So yes, there are some things that you do have to plan, but I don't have a plot listed like many, many authors have a wonderful outline of what they're going to do.
That's really interesting. And then in that answer, you also answered one of Lisa Reimer's questions, because she had said she loves the word endearment. And in your title, it just gave her this great old-fashioned feel. And she had wondered how that ended up being a word choice. So that's really great that you got to answer that in there too.
I have to add a little story. Yesterday, I was with some friends who had a 14-year-old daughter, and I said something. I either used the word willy-nilly or I don't remember what word I would use, but she said, "You sound just like my grandmother." And I thought, okay. Was that a compliment or is she saying I'm really old?
Oh, no.
So the word endearment is definitely in my vocabulary, so it does age me.
I love that. You never know when a word will come back, though, too.
That's exactly right.
Someone has to bring it back, right?
Exactly.
Oh, I love it. We have another question about your writing. Sharon would like to know and now I apologize. What'd you say that's called again? Because I never heard where your peripheral vision that's affected.
Retinitis pigmentosa.
Pigmentosa. Okay. With dealing with that and also writing, do you have like a special Braille keyboard or something that helps you in your writing process?
That is an awesome question. All right. So I did not learn that I had this eye disease until 2001. So I was already an adult. I had 2 children at the time, and it was to learn Braille is like learning a foreign language with your eyes closed. I have the utmost respect for individuals who are able to read Braille. Totally floors me. I can't even, at this point, I still can't even memorize the alphabet. Part of it is I can't even feel it. There is just something very, very special about someone who has grown up and learned to read Braille. Just this, it's not the same as learning sign language. It is something totally unique. I also attribute it to math. I am not a math person. Gemma probably knows her math facts better than I do. To play Yahtzee, yeah, to play Yahtzee for me, I'm counting by 2s. But the answer to that question is I am able to use a regular keyboard, a regular computer. My husband has been super helpful in making my mouse. It's about 3/4 of an inch tall and it has a tail. So as you move it across the screen, it drags because I cannot locate it on my screen. So even as I'm looking at my screen now, at you, I can't see anything but you. That's what I'm looking at. I can't even see myself in other section of the screen. So when I'm working, I have to work very specifically, and I can't work for long periods of time. So there are many days when I will take out my phone and I will use the voice to text feature, and I'll send myself an email with thoughts that are going on in my head, simply because I just can't look at the screen any longer. But then of course you have to go back and edit, because they don't always understand what you're saying.
Oh, yeah, with that, you never know with technology how it'll handle that.
Right.
It's really interesting what you brought up about different from learning sign language and anything, because Gemma and I love to learn sign language. That's something we do. And she's interested in learning about Helen Keller. So we've done a lot of research about her. And we decided to try this little activity we found where you could kind of make enlarged beads to learn the Braille letters. And we started doing that. And we borrowed a book from one of our local libraries that actually had Braille in it. And like you were saying, it's so, like, you do the activities with the kids, to learn, and it's big and you can see the shapes, but in its small form that they actually use, just like you said, we couldn't feel the difference. We were floored with how that process must be to learn that.
Yeah, I don't understand. I truly utmost respect for anyone who has been able to accomplish that.
Yeah. So that was really an interesting discussion you brought up. That was really cool. Let's see. Lisa, I believe, also had another question. Lisa Reimer. She had asked, I know you've already touched on this, but if you want to add on, how did the idea for this story come to you?
There are times when I have something in my head and I'll just think, oh, wow, that would make a great story. This one I started fresh. I started with nothing. I started with the word endearment. And my baseline was, if I want to make this about low vision or blindness, what is the most important thing that I need to get across? And for me, when I first learned that I was losing my vision, with retinitis pigmentosa, you can lose it quickly. You can lose it over a pattern of years. Mine has simply diminished. When I first learned, I was already down to 20% of my peripheral vision, meaning I had about here, and now I'm here. So it just continues to get smaller for me. But when I was going through this, the most difficult thing was, I have no value. What am I going to be able to do? I can't even cook. How am I going to do any of these things if I lose my sight? And I needed to myself during that time work through that process. And so learning what I've learned over the last 15 years or so, 20 now, is that, oh my, I still have value. Absolutely. God does not discriminate against any of us, and he gives us only what we can handle. That is not biblical, but that is what I believe in my heart, that I know God truly will give me just enough to help grow me. I shouldn't say biblical, scriptural. The most important thing of this book is to say that this individual, Everly, it does not matter what your situation is, what your blindness is. It could be that you are struggle with extreme depression. It could be that you have a speech impediment. It could be any type of thing, inside or exterior. It could be any of those things. But what this book says is, when you make the choice in your heart that you are still worth something to God, you will be worth something to someone else.
I love the encouragement and all the sharing that you're putting out there with this book. And I think, did I understand you correctly? Did you say this is a part of some kind of series where you worked with other authors?
It is the You Are on the Air series. And so there are 26 books and 15 authors, and it's exciting. There's some fun books out there. So there are already 3 other books. Marlene Beerworth has Dial B for Baby. And Tina D, she's fun. She has Dial M for My Family, or My Heart, My Love. Oh, I forget what hers is called. And Lisa Price-Hawk has Dial F for Family. So there's some super fun ones out there with great authors. And there is a Facebook group that you can join to just get in on all the fun.
Oh, I'm gonna have to look for that. That's fantastic. And were they all meant to have some kind of special cause in there, or was it kind of just to have that kind of title theme?
It's just the title theme. That's just how that happened for me.
Oh, I love that was an avenue for you to put this out. It's a fantastic
Yes.
story. I love it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity to read it. I love it so much. So it's good to get to talk about it here and hear more about behind it. So I'm just looking to see the next question here. We had so many wonderful questions come in. Chris Kiefer wanted to first say congratulations, Heidi, on your upcoming release, and she wishes you the best of luck in your series. And writer to writer, she wanted to know, how do you effectively balance work and life?
Oh, Chris, first of all, thank you for those kind words. And from author to author, seriously, there is no balance. I am not doing well with that at all. There are some days that I just sit in front of my computer and every moment that my eyes are able, man, I am busy writing down, getting words on the computer screen. There are other days that I don't even turn my computer on. No, we all have laundry and dishes and meals to cook. So life just happens, but I haven't found that balance. So Chris, as soon as you do, please share it with me.
I think it's different for everybody too. Like, I know I'm the type of person, I like to get up, and if I'm going to write or do anything productive, I got to do it right in the morning when I've got my coffee, or else it just doesn't work later on in the day. But that was a great question. And I think we had another one about writing. Lisa Zinn Christensen wanted to know, do you have a preferred place to write?
Oh, that's a great question. The funniest thing is I have this really nice office that I love, and I do get writing done there, but I find that I do more administrative work. It feels like an office. And so I do administrative things to include making sure my newsletter is written and my lists are up to date and any kind of marketing. But my favorite place to write is sitting in my living room in the chair beside my fireplace with that computer on my laptop, and it's just the right angle, and I can get quite a bit of writing done.
That's pretty neat to think about too, like how the environment has such an impact on somebody's mind and what focus they're in at that moment.
Yes.
Because that is a part of writing too, like the parts where you're dealing with the wonderful newsletter you have too, and that's hard to split.
Yes.
All right, so we have another one. There's two questions that are kind of similar that came in from a couple different members, so I'm going to ask them at the same time. So we have Iralee Hendrigan, and again, I'm so sorry if I'm saying your name wrong. What character is your favorite out of all the ones you have written so far? And then Kathy Albrighton Bennett wants to know, do you have a favorite character you specifically wrote for Dial E for Endearment? So I was curious if maybe this would match up too.
I'm going to start with Kathy's. So in my Dial E for Endearment, Max, absolutely. Max the dog is my favorite. I just love this dog. In fact, my husband and I last night were at Tractor Supply buying, let's see, corn on the cob thingies that are dried and peanuts for the squirrels, because we have had an unusual cold spell in South Carolina. We've had snow 2 weekends in a row that actually has lasted. Very, very unusual for us, especially as far down. And so I'm at Tractor Supply, and there is the most beautiful dog I have ever seen with these eyes. And I thought, oh, wow, that's a nice dog. And so I said, can I pet him? And, loved on him a little bit. He just looked at me and I thought, that's what Max would do. It was like that dog just connected. I was just amazed. So Max is my favorite character in this story. In all of my stories, my favorite character is in Desire of My Heart, my debut novel, and it's Grammy. Grammy is based on my mom. My mother was by far the most amazing prayer warrior I have ever come across. Not the kind, trying to think of the movie, you may need to help, Prayer War Room. Not like the prayer warrior in War Room. She wasn't loud and boisterous. My mom was quiet. My mom I would find my mom kneeling beside her bed, beside a chair, by the sofa, and just see her shoulders shaking. She was just weeping in her heart. And I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that my mom was praying for a tremendous need. She may not even know what that need was. She just would pray. My mom would call us when she lived in Florida in her last years, and she would call us and she would say, I just wanted you to know that I was thinking of you today. And so this morning, your daddy and I, we prayed for your children. And she had no idea the stress that we were going through in our household that just about every teenage parent goes through. And I would just say, God, how does she know? My mom just knew. She just was so close to the Lord. My dad once said, your mom is so close to the Lord that she can see the whites of his eyes. And if you think about that, that's pretty close. And so Grammy is by far my favorite character. And it was very hard to let her go when I was writing that book.
I think that is just so beautiful that the answer you had to these questions, that your favorites are based on people and meetings that mean something to you and were real. So that makes me even more excited to continue reading your work and get to see more about that character and how you transformed her into that, which lasts forever. That's amazing.
Yes.
And beautiful. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Thank you.
Let's see, we've got another question. So many questions, it's so exciting. So David Itzye, he posted under his Cactastic YouTube channel name, which in case people saw it on there, and it's a wonderful channel about plants, just to throw it out there. And so that's why it doesn't say his name there, that I love to follow too. But he is wondering, what was the most difficult part of writing Dial E for Endearment?
Oh, David, that's a great question. Dial E has a tremendous amount of dialogue. I try to make it as little telling as possible. It's always difficult for me, but it does have a lot of dialogue. Because I do not physically read a paper book, I am when I do read, I read on a Kindle with large print and small screen. So my phone, actually, that left to right, going back and forth, is my best way to read, because I can keep my eyes tracking on those lines. So because I listen to more books, I love Libby and oh my, I've just lost the other Yoo-hoo. Is that what it's called? With Libby, I'll have to tell you that later. It's with my through my library. When I use those, I don't then see how dialogue is written. I just hear how dialogue is written. And so getting the dialogue correct was the most difficult. But I have to tell you, this is how I fixed and made it so that I'm hoping that it is correct. I have a girlfriend, Kathy, who is blind, and she offered to edit my book for me. And she does all of my editing by listening. She caught crazy things that other people did not catch. She was the last person to edit it. One of the things was I had used the word that sadness enveloped her, and I had envelope. And, she caught those kind of details and caught a tremendous amount of the lines that when people are saying something, that I had the tag at the end at the wrong place, or so it was with the wrong person. She caught tremendous amount of details. I was very thankful for that.
Oh, that's wonderful. Editing is such a process for authors. Like, I feel like you could almost edit forever and still find something on any book out there.
Oh, yes. Yes. And I want to interject here. I love when someone finds an error in my book. I love when they message me on Facebook and say, I just wanted you to know I found this error, and just in case you didn't catch it. Because as an indie author, an independently published author, I can go back, even after a paperback is already up on Amazon, I can go back and make that change and upload a new edition and make that correction. And so if you find something glaring, then I may make that change right away. And that is because that person took the time and was thoughtful enough to send me that correction. If they're all little tiny ones, like a comma instead of a period in it, or a single quote instead of a double quote, something that the story is still readable, then I may wait until I have 10 or 15 and then correct them all together and upload them. But I do appreciate that as an author. I would much rather have someone take the time to connect with me and let me know than for it to go out to 400 more people with that same error and no one say anything.
That is such amazing information for readers and even for other indie authors. So thank you so much for sharing that. That's great to know that you can go back and change. I'd wondered about that once you put it out there, what that process is like. And I love that you appreciate hearing that feedback. So that's fantastic. All of your links that you've given me of how people can connect with you are going to be in the description of this YouTube video. So people can find you that way too if they want to go on and find all your links and connect. And so that's perfect. That way they can have that many ways to give you feedback.
Thank you.
Yes. So we've got, let's see, another wonderful member question. Jean St. Pierre Kingsbury loves Christian literature and is delighted to read your work in the future, and wondering, do you feel you are guided to write your story in each book?
Oh, Jean, I don't think I've ever been asked that question. What a great question. Yes, I've been guided to write those stories. I'm going to be really honest with book one. It was a completely selfish, cocky attempt that ended up actually changing a little bit about who I am as a person. When I wrote my very first book, Desire of My Heart, I wrote it because I was a beta reader for several other authors. A beta reader is one of the first people that sees a book and helps an author find plot holes, big errors. In chapter 1, she's in a blue shirt. Chapter 2, she's in the same place, but now it's a red shirt. Just helping an author make sure that the story flows well. And I had just finished a book and I went, oh, seriously, I can do better than this. And so cocky self, me, thought, you know what, girl, put your money where your mouth is. If you think you can do it, do it. So I tried. And I sent it to the author that I had been beta reading for and said, would you read this? And she went, this is not good. I love you, but this is not good. And it put me down a notch, and it made me realize this is not easy. Writing it's challenging. And so now to answer this question, yes, God ordained the time of when this would happen. So I put that book away, and about a year later, COVID happened, and I had been the director of an English as a second language program. The program closed, and I said, I have no more excuses. And so I just sat down with God and said, if you want me to do this, if you want me to try and make this happen, I think I have a story to tell that can glorify you. ESL for me was the way that I could share Christ with internationals. And now my platform was gone. And because I don't drive, and because I live in a small neighborhood, I don't have a lot of opportunities to just reach out and share who Jesus is to me and how he has changed my life. So I thought this book can be who I am as my platform to share Christ. And so I purposed to put Christ in my writing without being a shove it down your throat or overly evangelistic. I worked very, very hard, and I truly do believe at that point God did help guide and direct me, along with pulling other people with me to help me make that happen. So for example, at the end of the book, I do give the ABCs of salvation to a child. And it is very simple and very clean and very easy, and it's not overwhelming. And if you are not a believer and you are reading, it's good information, but it may not change your heart. but it's certainly going to plant a seed. That's a great question.
That is a great question and a great answer. And I love that you put in there too, because this is kind of a little bit something I'm already working on writing my review for Dial E for Endearment for you. And that brings me to some information that's going to be in it, because I wanted to make it known, like, I read all kinds of genres. And I know, some people might look at it and say, this is very niche. I don't know if this is for me. And what I noticed in there is the way that you include religion in it. It's very much, it belongs to that character. So I think anybody can read your book. So it's just as the same as learning about what a character likes to eat for breakfast. Like, I felt like it just felt like it's learning about those characters.
That's a huge compliment. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I love that about your book. Like you said, you're not shoving anything down anybody's throat. It's, putting what you want to put in there in a very, the word I'm looking for, like, tasteful way where anybody can read it.
Thank you.
It's great. It actually kind of reminded me of like a Hallmark movie. Like, I just couldn't put it down. I'm like, this is so cozy. It's just fantastic. So I'm glad that you put that in there so people know, like, even though it sounds very niche, it's such a good flowing read for anybody.
Thank you.
So,
thank you.
Thank you. Let's see. And I will go back to make sure I didn't miss any questions really quickly, because I know we had so many in from members. I think that was everything, and I will double check just in case. My notes got a little crazy because so many came in. I'm like, oh, this fits good here. So I will check in the end to make sure I didn't miss any more member questions, and I'll start going on to mine. So I think you might have answered this, but I'm not sure. If I had been curious, because I've heard a lot of authors say it's actually sometimes harder to write a smaller piece of work or a blurb for their book than it is to write a longer novel. So I had been curious, like, the collection that you're a part of, are they all novellas, or did you choose specifically to make this smaller for a certain reason? Was it harder to write a shorter book?
The beauty of a multi-author project is one or two authors have dictated what the parameters are going to be. And so that's how this series is. It's going to be about, every story is going to have something to do with the radio station, whether it is like in Dial F for family, the family is actually calling into a radio station. The family doesn't have anything to do with the station. And so every book is unique in that way, but they are considered novellas. So like 25 to 35,000 words, 120 to 190 pages. That's an estimate on my part. I may be wrong. And so those parameters definitely help set the stage of what I'm going to do. To answer your question, writing blurbs is hard for everyone. And part of it is you're trying to put your entire work, everything that you've poured your heart into. These characters have a face. They're more than just a name on a page. They are family to you. You know them inside and out. And to try and put it into 3 little tiny short paragraphs that are going to grab somebody's attention, that is a very, very difficult thing to do. And I would say for almost every author, if someone has got the ability to do it, they need to write a book to tell us how. There are very few of those out there.
I think a lot of authors would buy that book.
Yes.
Yes. Oh, I love it. So let's see. One thing, this is going to sound, I'm going to talk about me for a second, but it is leading to a question, so hang in there. So a few years back now, I started having problems with my eyes, and I kind of brushed it off at first. I was seeing black squigglies, and then it started turning into blind spots, and I would sit down and read. I would sit down and, look at the computer, and they'd start popping up. And I'm like, oh, this is just, I can't see anything. And then it started happening when I was driving. And that's when I'm like, you know what? I have a young daughter. I'm going to go to the eye doctor, see what's going on. And I found out that I have a detached gel in my left eye, which is, that surprised me in itself, because my senses are so overloaded when it happens. It feels like it's in front of both eyes.
Yes.
So in my research, I found that that's something for my age category when it started, and where I am now, it's rare. So that to me says it's not rare for people in general to get, which I found interesting. So I was wondering if, because I've never had a facet where I even thought to talk about this with people, is your book something that you're hoping will start conversations like this where, you know, readers, writers, people, even if it's not problems with their eyes or, you know, something else, anything they're overcoming every day or maintaining every day, to do what they love still, are you hoping this starts conversations like in your reviews on social media with you? Is that part of maybe your message that you're trying to get out there?
That's actually a great question. I hadn't really considered that, but I will say in the few Facebook parties that I've had online, introducing this book, it has come up. Everyone is dealing with something. You may be dealing with an eye issue. You might be dealing with macular degeneration is another one that so many people have. That is just such a common one right now. But it may be even more than that. You could be dealing with a child who is just, you haven't heard from them in a year and you're just struggling. So yes, opening up conversations. As an author, one of the things that I love to do is I love to know that I am helping fill a void, or I am helping to heal a heart. I am helping to open someone's eyes to what is possible. The power of a book, when you read something, it's different for every person. And that is, I learned that a lot in my very first book, is how people identified with different characters. Some said, boy, I want to be like Grammy. I remember my grandmother being just like that, and I've gotten so far away from any of that. Or I'm just like Rachel. Rachel just went through this terrible, deep depression, and I'm just like her. And you helped me see that time is one of the things that help heal all wounds. And so, you know, reading is different for every person. So yeah, it does open up some conversations, and I would love to have an opportunity to have those with people. And I think one of the best ways is, well, two of the best ways. I am very active on Facebook, and I will almost always answer every comment that is made on a post that I make. I want to connect. But if you want to get really deep, sign up for my newsletter. Send me an email. First of all, the reason you would want to sign up for my newsletter, there is a free novella that I think everybody would enjoy reading, but I give a lot of background into who I am and why I do what I do. And so it helps you decide, do I really want to connect with this person? Is this person someone that I would even think about getting, having a connection with? And then I do answer all my emails.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much. And I follow your newsletter. I said it earlier. I love it. And that gem of, a Mad Lib
Yes.
is fantastic, which I will talk about with you later.
Okay.
And that will be brought up later on when we do the drawing. So let's see here through my millions of questions. We've been talking a little bit about Braille throughout. So I had a question, and it's interesting. This is the first time I've ever thought, like when I talk to authors, I think to ask, oh, do you have an audiobook coming with it? Do you have, what kind of forms can we find your book in? And this is the very first time I've ever thought to ask, are Braille copies available? How do people who do prefer a Braille copy get it? Is that a part of something that you know how that works? And I'm also curious, the new audiobook trend, do you feel like that's taking place of a lot of format choices for people who would have chosen Braille in the past?
All right. So first of all, I have to say, I asked the same question because I did not know the answer to that. I believe that some people prefer Braille because it is the story is not being told to them. It's almost like reading a book instead of watching a movie. Braille makes it very personal for an individual who cannot read with their eyes. Okay. I have chosen to do two things. In this series, I will not be doing an audiobook simply because audiobooks are very expensive. And unless the whole group decided to do it as a whole, it's not a good fit for this particular book. My other books, yes, I will do them at some point with audio. After I have had a chance to go back and edit them. I'm still finding that that first book especially has some things in it that I just need to correct. I'm still a new author. Some of my friends have hundreds of books under their belt and they've figured it out. I'm still working on that. So your patience is appreciated and your grace. Audio books are awesome. I probably read 5 audiobooks a month. I listen to an audiobook when I'm doing dishes, when I'm walking around my block. I have an audiobook on almost all the time. I love listening to a good reader, and I am very excited to find someone who is going to capture the feel of my books and get those out there. I'm not sure I'm answering your question exactly right.
Okay.
One other thing is that I have lots of people say to me, are you going to put your book in large print? It is formatting for an independent author, at least for this independent author, is very time consuming and very, very difficult. To upload a new book into a large format it's starting from zero and taking your words and doing everything that you need to do to make that now become a large print. And large print books are very expensive compared to a paperback. And so the return on investment for an author is not always the most helpful. So an individual who is visually impaired or blind may choose, rather than to listen to an audiobook, to utilize the devices that are available. There are many. Even Microsoft Word will read your document back to you. It's fascinating what's available out there. So I have one friend, Tia. She's in Jamaica, and she just received her first e-reader. And so I send my books to her in PDF format. She uploads them on her computer, and then she is able to listen to them that way. I have another friend who actually takes the books physically, and Anne Harrison, and she opens the book. She wants the hard copy, and she uses a machine and lays it on top of the page, and that machine reads the page to her. So it is completely what your preference is of how you want to listen to a book. But if it's my choice, I want an audiobook. And so someday that will happen with my other books.
That was really great information. And it actually is kind of interesting because someone on the other side of it, when you mentioned that it's starting over to make it into large print, I never realized that. Like, I think the world is so automated in so many places now. My thought would have been, before finding this out, like I would have figured, oh, maybe you can just upload it to Amazon and click, I want this, 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 and this. But it doesn't work like that. So I find that very interesting to find that out, that it starts all over for you again if you want that different format. That is a lot of work.
Yes.
So I had also been curious with reading your book, and we have talked about the dog character already here and there. The dog melts my heart every time. I actually wanted to ask if this is kind of a second cause that you kind of slipped into your book, because I think it's just brilliant, the pacing that you introduced this dog character in, because first you fall in love with the dog character, and then a little while in you slip in about the dog's breed and how some people might look at that dog, and you put that in there. And I have known a lot of dogs that breed that are so sweet, and I love all animals. So I really loved how you put that in there, and I was wondering, is that a second cause you're hoping that other people will notice and talk about as well?
Not a cause, but I'm so glad you mentioned that. It is another confirmation that we are not just what people see. We are who we are internally, and until someone gets to know us, it's all judgment. Everly is not just the girl with the white cane. She is not just the voice behind the microphone. People see those as two different characters when they are looking at her visually. Behind the microphone, she is this wonderful radio talk show host, who has it all together and everything seems perfect, and no one even knows that she has a visual impairment. And then when she's out on her own, it's a totally different thing. They see her as something different because that white cane is what feels like it defines her, and that's what she's trying to get out from behind. It's the same way with Max. So, and I'll let the readers read the story and see what they think. But Max has an innate sense of what needs to happen, and I just love this character. He's just the sweetest thing. In fact, I'd get one of my own if I could, but I've never found one.
Yes, I love the dog character in your book. Like, all the interactions just feel so sweet and so realistic, and I'm like, oh, such a sweet dog. So I love what you had behind that.
Thank you.
And it did feel like another cause to me, so that's why I wasn't sure if that's something you put in specifically. Because I agree with that. Like, that theme that you have with your story is just so beautiful, and the ways you show that is amazing.
Thank you.
It's great. Thank you. So we're getting close to the end of the questions. So I wanted to ask, so right now it's on pre-order, Dial E for Endearment. Is it February 1st that it becomes available?
Yes. So if you order in a pre-order status, it simply means that your credit card is not charged the $2.99 until February 1st. So at 12:01 in the morning, usually it will show up in your Kindle library, and then that is when you will be charged. So pre-order, what that does for an author is all of those pre-orders count towards the first day sale, and that helps the Amazon algorithm to show that this book has value, lots of people are interested, and it helps. So for example, let's say you purchase this book and you also purchase, I'm going to use Redeeming Love by Francine Rivers because it's such a hot seller right now with her movie coming out. So let's say you purchase both of those books. It is going to help then the next time it'll bring up more books on the bottoms of other books you may enjoy. But other people who have also purchased Francine Rivers' book, they may, if they've read some of the other books that you have read and purchased the other books, on the bottom of theirs, Dial E for Endearment will show up, and it will say, if you enjoyed this book, you may also enjoy this. It's all a computer generated thing. And of course, I don't know that's exactly how that works, but that is how I have seen it happen on my screen and screens of other people. And so by getting more, the more that book is considered valuable towards Amazon, then the more it'll show up in other people's inboxes of, not their inboxes, but on their screen.
Yeah, the book world is such a saturated community with so many choices, and it's so wonderful to have that, but it does make it hard for authors to be found within that.
Yes.
So other than, I know, reviews are huge to help authors. Are there any other ways that, readers can help you with those algorithms, or that, is important to you?
Absolutely. One of the best things that someone can do is if you leave thank you, if you are courteous enough to leave a review, that is like huge. When you leave one on Amazon, that helps me the most. But if you also can take that, just copy and paste, take that same one and leave it on other sites such as Goodreads and BookBub, that is also very helpful because different people use different sites. If you are on your Kindle and you simply, and when you get to the end and all it shows is those 5 dots, 5 stars, and you can choose those, that is very helpful. Please don't ever skip that when you are reading a book. And I want to interject here. If you are in Kindle Unlimited, an author does get paid per page read. And so if you loved the book, please go all the way to the very end of the book. Read, even if you don't read the pages, go through those pages so that the author gets the maximum number of pages read. It's like leaving a tip at a restaurant. When you get good service, you leave 15% rather than 10. You might leave 20. So for an author, especially if you have Kindle Unlimited, the most courteous thing that you can do is go all the way to the end of their book. It's like giving them a tip. And then also choosing your stars. But if you only choose stars and there isn't an opportunity, sometimes there is, sometimes there isn't, to leave a review, please go back and leave a review somewhere else. Those are a few ways, but here's another way. Heather, I am only one person, and on my reach of my friends on Facebook only reaches so far. But because you are my friend, if you leave your review on BookBub, that's wonderful. But if you would take your review and highlight your URL and put it on your Facebook page and say, I just left this review for Heidi Gray McGill's book, Dialing for Endearment, what that does is two things. I am now reaching all of your friends. All of your friends are seeing that review, but it also reminds your friends, oh yeah, I probably need to leave a review too. And so it's far reaching. So if 10 different people would take the time to copy their URL from their Goodreads or their BookBub review and put it on Facebook and say, I just read this awesome book. Or another way to do this is, let's give the example of, if you are in a readers group, if I'm reading a book and I get into your reader group and I say, oh my goodness, I just read this book, you have to read it, then the people in that group are more likely to at least check it out and see if it's something that's going to fit their thought process. Another way a reader can help is, I often will see, I'm in a group called Avid Readers of Christian Fiction. It's a wonderful group. And every once in a while, someone will say, can you recommend a book that is true Christian fiction? Or can you recommend a book for a 14-year-old girl who loves fantasy, but I don't want it to have any on-page anything that's inappropriate for my daughter to read, and I don't want any language. So as a reader, if I know of a book that fits that description, it is very helpful for me to go in and say, oh, true Christian fiction, you've got to read Francine Rivers, you've got to read Heidi Gray McGill, you've got to read and list these individuals, and that helps huge. That's a huge help, because then when individuals say that's the type of book I want, then they're going to go read it. So responding in a group text, not a group text, a group chat or a thread with the author's name, that is really, really helpful. A lot of times you can't include a link, but just putting an author's name, you can go to Amazon and figure out who they are.
That is all such great advice. And I love always getting to talk more about reviews and what they mean to authors too, because that's something I've noticed. I've always been a reader, but it wasn't until, later on, more recently in my life, that I realized reviews they matter. They're a thing. They're a big deal.
Yeah.
I love, spreading the word and hearing what that means to each individual author. So I appreciate all that information, and I appreciate all this time for the interview today. This has been just so amazing talking with you about your book and your process and just everything. Thank you so much for being here with us today, Heidi.
Thank you, Heather. You're doing a great job. What you are doing for authors makes a big, big difference. It just truly, for me to be able to share my heart, that's one thing, but for you to be able to get this word out to other individuals, that means something more even. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, thank you. It is my pleasure. This has been fantastic. Thank you again so much. All right, so this is so exciting. We've had so many wonderful member questions that came in, and also members could add your new Dial E for Endearment novella to their Goodreads Want to Read list. So to enter this drawing, they could either do both or one of those things. So some people have their names in twice if they did both steps. So if we do 2 draws and we get the same name twice, we'll just pick once more to make sure we get 2 ebook winners. Thank you, Heidi, so much for offering this giveaway.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
So exciting. And I know I love the read, so I hope you guys love it. Good luck to everybody who entered. And Gemma, drum roll, go ahead and pick the first name. Okay, that was quick. Let's see. Oh, the first winner is Chris Kiefer. Congratulations, Chris.
Congratulations, Chris.
Yay. All right, go ahead and mix it up really good, and we get one more name. Fingers crossed. Good luck, everybody. All right. The next winner, is one of our newest members who actually joined and asked you a question, Kathy. And I apologize because a lot of these names I see online. So if I mispronounce your name, just let me know. Kathy Albritton Bennett. So congratulations. And for both of the winners, I will be in contact with you shortly so that I can get you in contact with Heidi so that she can give you your ebook copy. And one thing I actually wanted to ask you about with this, I follow your newsletter. And I think it was like a few months back, you had this really cool thing in your newsletter that was a review Mad Lib.
Yes.
And I was wondering, is that a resource you have, for the winners, maybe even the book club, so that when they read your book, that's like a good way to fill in if they're not sure how to do a review? Because I loved that. I thought that was a great resource.
Heather, I would love to share that with you. I did create that, and it has been super helpful for people simply because, and I really made it because I struggle to write reviews for other people. And I just realized that there are some phrases that are just very common. I loved this book. That's actually a wonderful thing to say. Sometimes that's enough. The most important thing is to leave a review. Even if all you do is put something in that subject line of what this is about, if that's all you do, it makes a huge difference for an author.
They're so
I will definitely share that with you.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm looking forward to, once you share that with me, I'll share it with everybody. Again, hopefully the winners will give you a great review. I'm working on my review for you. So as soon as I get that posted, that'll be up soon.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for picking the winners, Gemma. Congrats again to the winners.
Bye, Gemma.